Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Today's topic is Microsoft OneDrive Lab Session 5.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Michael Nelson. I'm the owner of TLC Tech. We've got Jack Reedy, who is our Business Development Manager. And today we're going to start with Microsoft OneDrive. So many of you have already been on the previous sessions for Microsoft Teams and for Microsoft Sharepoint, which was our last one. Today we're going over OneDrive, and I want to start with the question of what is OneDrive? And Jack, can you confirm that you're seeing my Office 365 splash screen?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. So basically, it's a very simple, what I tell people is SharePoint is meant to share files with others. OneDrive is meant for one person's data. The easiest, quickest way to think of it is that way. So back to a lot of you when we were talking about SharePoint, you have the S drive or the N drive that you were used to seeing on the network. That would be a map drive. That's where everybody would save the shared documents. So your operation files, your HR, there would be different permissions set up on them. That's the equivalent of SharePoint. OneDrive is the equivalent of what was for many of you either the P drive for the private drive or the H drive for the home drive. It's effectively where you're going to have documents that you're mainly using yourself. Now, these can be shared with other people, so I don't want you to think that it's not capable. It shares the same way that you can with SharePoint, and we'll go into that. But the basic idea, use OneDrive for your documents that you're mainly going to be using. If it's going to be used by multiple people in your company, you want to use those in the SharePoint. A reminder that you guys are all on audio only, so if you've got questions, please open up the little questions panel, I think it's called, Jack, and then post questions anytime you have any questions on here. So I want to start with understanding cloud storage. So again, all of you that are on this webinar are already up in Office 365. So your email sits on the Microsoft servers at Office 365. You use Outlook on your phone or on the desktop application, or you use the web-based Outlook Web Access to get to those emails. But all of those emails live in the Microsoft Office 365 ecosystem. Same thing with OneDrive. All of the data lives up in OneDrive in the Microsoft 365 system. So I've just launched, here's my main folder. Now, usually I've been using a test version, kind of a one just for showing off to you guys so that I'm not exposing any partner data. For OneDrive though, because it's my private drive, I'm actually using the one that I use full time because there's a lot more data in there, and I want you all to see how it behaves with search and everything. So as you can see right now, this is all up in the cloud. I'm web-based. I created this webinar test folder, the agenda. Here's the agenda that we're going to go through today. Now, you can see I'm using a browser. I'm using Microsoft Edge. So that's everybody can, I can get to this through a web browser anytime, any place that I want. I just need to have my secure login, my email address, my password, and hopefully many of you are turning on two-factor authentication as well. So this is cloud-based. It's available on the cloud. Very similar to the same thing that we did with SharePoint is in here. I can open this in the desktop application, which is going to launch the application Microsoft Word that's installed on my desktop. Now I'm viewing this cloud document on my local machine. If I make an update to this, let me see, next up, I'll put that in there. Go ahead, it's auto saved. I can close that. That's going to automatically update the version that I have here, and it just updated the cloud as well. So being that everything lives up in the Office 365 ecosystem, it gives us the ability to access it from anywhere, any device, anytime. So that's the quick overview of OneDrive and how the cloud storage works. As you saw, I got to my OneDrive by going into the main Office 365 ecosystem, clicking on OneDrive. That gives me access to my main file folders here. So basically the way is question, is anybody not currently using OneDrive? If you're not using it, could you just type not in the questions area? I'd like to just get a quick idea of how many of you may not be using it yet. The sign on, while you guys are doing that, the sign on is pretty simple. You just launch OneDrive. You go into the start menu, type 1, launch the OneDrive app. And if you've not signed in before, it'll ask you to log in with your email address and password, same way that you do logging into any of the Office 365 applications. So once you're in there, you've got a couple of different ways of behavior. So we've got the webinar folder. I'll go in here. I can upload a file. This is, if you were on last week's call, this is exactly the same way. I can upload files, I can upload folders. So I can go in here, I can grab files. If I had something on my desktop, I could put in here. Let me see, go in here, bam, upload it, and it'll upload right up here, shows me the upload. Now that also will synchronize to any OneDrive folders that I have on my desktop, and I'll show you that in a second. Just to keep things clean, I'm going to go ahead and delete that file. That's how I upload them through the web interface. If I wanted to now, I will bring up my File Explorer, which looks like this. So same way that I've got OneDrive here. This is my OneDrive folder. And you can see when I go into it, I'm going to map this a little bit smaller so we can do a side by side. And if you look at the folders, they're all the same. Webinar folder, webinar, attachments, documents, email attachments, EO, EOS, abundance. So these folders are what I use a majority of my time, and these are my private folders, my private data. Now, I can also, let me go into the webinar folder, the same way that SharePoint behaves. I can create a new document here. I'll just create a new Word document, if I can see correctly. Call that test, and in just a minute, you can see that it's synchronizing. Bam, it's now going to show up online. Simple refresh, there it is. So that document, I can upload it any different way. I can upload it through the web browser, or I could, if I wanted to, same way that I had the desktop here, I could just drag, drop that here, and then that'll show up, synchronize. Again, do a quick refresh, and it'll synchronize up here. So it's a quick and easy way. You can drag and drop through the File Explorer. You can do it also through the web interface. And Jack, interrupt me if we have any questions.
Nope, good.
Okay, so we've just got
people
one.
that are not using OneDrive.
Okay, for some reason I'm not seeing that. Let me pop that out. Yeah, for some reason I'm not able to see that as clearly. Oh, there's the pop-out section. Okay, so Kelly, Christy, and Chad, it's very simple. If you want to test it, if you've got the Office 365 license in any way, if you're just email only, you have access to OneDrive. All you have to do is click on the start menu, type OneDrive, log in. It'll ask you to do the first 4 or 5. You just click next, next, next. Choose all of the defaults and just let it set up. The minute you turn it on, it'll say OneDrive dash and your business name. So that's the easy way to do that part. Okay, so we've talked about how you upload files. You can upload them again through the Explorer window, File Explorer like you're used to. This is how you used to see this PC, and then you'd see your network drive. Instead, like we talked about before, these are my SharePoint sites. This is my OneDrive site. So I can see everything in my OneDrive folders behaves just like SharePoint did. So now I want to explore the OneDrive site. Again, same way, same behavior. I can create a new folder that'll do the same thing as uploading any files. I'm doing that just so it'll go up to the top. As soon as we see that it has been synchronized, you can see that it's in the process of synchronizing right there. Then I can do a refresh. Is that synchronized yet? Yeah, there it is. So it's now been synchronized. Same easy way. I can create it from my local machine that is synchronizing, or I can do it from the web. I can also delete it here the same way, and then that'll synchronize back down, and in a second, it'll go ahead and that just disappeared from that file as well. So that's how you create and work with files and folders. One of the things that I did want to show you though is what if we mess up? So if I go into OneDrive, one of the things that you're going to see in here is you get the, again, these are the three, we're used to seeing three ellipses. In a menu like this, it's going to have the, because I've made this smaller, let me go, you'll notice right here, I have the extended menu, but if I go full screen, that shows up. It just gives me the extended menu. It's because I wasn't full screen that I didn't have that full menu. So go back to full screen and you'll see here I have my recycled bin. So this is everything that has just been deleted, and you can see that it actually goes back on the date deleted. It goes back for me, I think we've got it turned on for, I think I've got an extended deleted time. By default, this is set to 30 days. So keep that in mind that it will auto delete itself after 30 days, but we do have this recovery. Another note, many of you, I know Brett in our technology business reviews are talking to you about backing up Office 365. It's getting more and more important to have a third-party backup of this data. And the one that we're using will back up all of your email, your SharePoint, your OneDrive, and your Teams data. So even if you've deleted it here, but we've set it up to back up over there, you could still get to it that way as well. So one of the other things I want to show you now is the search feature, and this is where I think one of the real powerful pieces comes in. So I'm going to go to my desktop really quick, and you can see right here it says search OneDrive. I'm going to search just for the word machine. Okay, so that's a fairly quick response. Honestly, I did that yesterday, so it's showing up a little bit faster. What I want to show you though is that when we do this online, the speed with which it does it is really quite amazing. It's pulled all of this, so everything that's showing up, and it just keeps dragging on every single thing that's got anything with the word machine in it. One of the things I'll also point out is on the web-based, it gives you this expand search to all items in your organization. That's going to move the search into SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams. So that'll search across everywhere, the whole 365 ecosystem, not just in Office 365. I'm going to go ahead and clear that search out. Okay, and then I'll go back to my main OneDrive. So you can search again on your desktop machine. You can search through the web. It's really, really fast on the web, and especially if you want to do a lot of, if you really want to do some huge searches that you're searching with a lot of keywords, it makes it much easier. So I could search, let me see, I know we've got Chad on here, so let me do Chad machine, see if there's anything that showed up. So that's somewhere that Chad's name showed up with machine both in there, and that's within my OneDrive. Okay, back to the OneDrive, and let me go back to our menu. Okay, so we've talked about searching files and folders, how to create the folders, how to upload them, download them, and the recycle bin. Any questions before I move on for sharing?
Looks good so far.
Okay, again, anytime you have questions, feel free to pop them in anytime. So sharing files is really quite simple, and that's one of the beauties of it. And it can be done, again, web-based, or it can be done through your machine. I'll go and go into the webinar folder and the training agenda. All I have to do, I right mouse clicked, I'm going to choose share, and it pulls up the menu. And again, we talked about this with SharePoint, and the same rules apply. I can say anybody that has the link. A reminder, that is literally anybody with that link. I'm going to strongly discourage you from doing that. If you do choose that one, I'm going to really encourage you to set an expiration date, and only, I actually had to do this yesterday. I needed to get some information to my banker, and they've got such a huge security system, they couldn't authenticate the normal way that would require them to get an email password and enter it in. So I went ahead and shared it with her, sent it choose the anyone with a link. She got it, downloaded it, and then I immediately turned off sharing that folder anymore. And I'll show you how to turn it off once we've done the sharing. So again, we've got the share with anyone with a link. Strongly discourage that. If you use it, set an expiration. You can also set a password. This is people inside my organization with the link. This is talking about people that already have existing access, so you can go change some things, or specific people. This is where if you, and this is the test that I'm going to show you, is I'm going to apply that, and I chose a particular external email. I already shared it just to save time, and this is the email message that came through. Now, there's a couple of things I want to point out here. This is a really good way for people to get phished. So you need to be careful in how you do this. You need to know that you're expecting the document. If you just get a blind, I've shared a document with you, and you're not expecting it, do not click on that link. The other thing I want to point out is down here, you notice that you see the TLC Tech logo. So that's embedded as part of the security setups that we do for you, setting up more advanced security in Office 365, so that your logo, you see your logo on the login page when you go to your password page, like I've shown you on when I'm logging in. That does it the same way. If I mouse over the link, you can see that it pulls up my SharePoint, mnelsontlctech.com, and I'm expecting this link. Then I would go ahead and click on that link and open that. Again, with our more advanced security for phishing, these kind of bad links would get caught. But again, use the same behavior if you're sharing with people or people are sharing documents with you. Same way if you've got an attachment. Are you expecting this document? Is it reasonable and logical that they would be sending this to you? This is, again, a really easy way that people can do it. But when you mouse over it, you're not going to see where it says TLC 365-my.sharepoint.com. You're going to see a much different URL. Again, this looks a little messy, but you can see the logic in here. You can see TLC 365. You can see on the third line, mnelson_TLC_tech_com. You can see that this looks and acts valid. So that's what the email looks like. Now, if I go ahead and go to open this, what browser is that pulling up? There we go. It goes ahead and opens it up. Now, because I sent this to another tlctech.com address, it's in a trusted environment. If it gets sent to the outside and you say, let me go back to the sharing. If I want to use an outside person and I share it, what will happen is they will get an email saying, this has been shared with you. When I go to click to open it, it will say to your end user, we've sent you an email with the 6-digit code to enter. What Microsoft is doing is they're making the person that you sent it to validate that they are them. For example, let's say that I sent this to Kelly. Kelly gets the email, but she forwards it on to Christy. Now, Christy has got the link to go ahead and open it, but the minute she clicks to open it, Kelly's going to get the email saying, here's your 6-digit code to open it. So if Kelly's email if Kelly forwards that email to somebody else that I don't want to have access, she would literally have to forward it to them. They'd get the code, she would get the code, she'd have to forward the code to them, and then they could get it. There is, if somebody's going to be dishonest that you're sending it to, you can't stop that. But the security of making sure that it is going to the person whose email you sent it to, that's what Microsoft wants to ensure. So that's how you share, same way that we did with SharePoint. Again, anyone, people in your company, people with existing access, or specific people that you have to type in their email. Remember, when you do the specific people, it is not going to auto-complete their email unless you've already sent it to them. So I've sent to my private email, Michael actually, no, it didn't even see it, so I haven't sent through this one. So once you type in the full email address, then it'll let you go ahead and put it in. Then you can go ahead and send the share with them. Okay, so that's sharing externally. One other point, and I made this point last time as well, at a corporate level, we can set it up for you that that option is not available, that they cannot use share anyone with the link. That's easy for us to turn off at a global level and helps keep the data a little more secure. Okay, any questions on the sharing side of things yet?
Nope.
Okay, so I'm going to go over now. Now, I had shared the document through the OneDrive training agenda, and that was in the webinar folder. So I'm going to go web-based. This is much easier to do web-based. I'm going to click on right here and highlight the training agenda. A couple of different ways. I can click here and say see details. I can click here and grab the details. Now, what this is showing me is I get the title where it's saved, labels, all the activity that's been done on this. Again, you can see I created this file yesterday, then I edited it later, I made edits 17 minutes ago. But the other thing is I can see who has access here. I can click Manage Access, and this shows me I have access, and there is a link that has been given sharing this link. This is the one that I said whoever has this particular link. So if I click here, I can go ahead and just X out and remove that link, and that is going to delete the link that anybody has access to this document anymore. So I've now turned off sharing. No longer available to anybody. Even if I had sent that email to a specific person, I can revoke that access as well. So it's really easy. If you mess up, just jump in on the website, find the document, and go to your ellipses, details, or I could go directly to manage access. So again, there's always 3 to 4 different ways to get there. And I could, if I wanted to, share it directly from here as well. I think it's easier to just go this way. Oops, go this way and choose share, and then it pulls up the web-based. Again, same thing, same options. Anyone with the link, people, existing access, or specific people, and that's specific by their email address. Okay, so that's how you can share. That's how you can stop sharing documents with you. One of the things that I know that happens for a lot of people is over time, you have documents that have been shared with you. Now, some people download these to their local machine, and that's okay. But if this is a document that multiple people are going to be working on, you don't want to break the chain. For example, if I'm working with you on a document for, we did this with one of our partners turning on 2FA. We shared it from our SharePoint site with the main user at their location. We were able to both work on this document, but sometimes people forget where it came from. It's like, where is it? Let me see, I've got a question in here, I think, Jack.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna say, is sharing only at the file level or also at the folder level?
Great question. I think that was Chad. No, you can also share the folder level, as I can go in here at the folder level, highlight that, share it, and it's going to share the contents of that folder. So yeah, you can share folder level or file level. Great question. Okay, so back to, I know somebody shared this with me, but where in the world is it? I might have gotten an email on it. It might have come in web-based. Sometimes it's easy to lose what's been shared with us. The beautiful thing is over here on the left, we have shared. Now, this is shared with me. This is shared by me. So this is everything that I've ever done and has been shared in any way, shape, or form. Now, I can click in, go to my ellipses, and I can get my details and my manage access. So let's go do my goals presentation here. Okay, I'll go into manage access, and that was shared with Ryan. All I have to do from here is I can say stop sharing, bam, done, gone. That's how you can easily clean up anything that you've been sharing that you may or may not want to share anymore. So that's shared by me, but here's the shared with me, and this is really an awesome thing. So this is everything that's been shared, and I can see the activity. I can see who shared it, and I can see the most recent activity. So if I want to go shared by, let's see, let's group it by that. And I can see Jack has shared 35 different items with me. So this gives me a different view. So again, I can choose my columns. All I did was I said group by shared by, and I can see everything that Jack has shared with me over the time. I will get to Amanda's question in a second. Okay, so these are all the documents that Jack shared with me. So this makes it a lot easier as, again, you don't want to download everything that people are sharing with you, especially if you're co-authoring on it. You want to leave it in its existing location. So let me see, Jack's cover letter guide. I don't know where you can see. Let me see, is this going to show me where? So I can go into the details. Yeah, because it's not my document. So I can't see all the properties on that, but I can see Jack shared it with me, and I can see that Lisa Baker modified it 12 days ago. So this is obviously a document multiple people are working on. If I downloaded it and made changes to it, I've broken that connection to it actually being in Jack's OneDrive or SharePoint, wherever he shared that from. Let me get to this question. Does OneDrive Share have the same level of security as using the encrypt function in Outlook? Amanda, great question. Qualified-ish, and let me show you what I mean by that. So when you encrypt a document, it's encrypting it start to finish. When they log in to Office 365, you share something through OneDrive, when they log in to get it, they are going to this address, and if you see it's HTTPS, which means it is indeed encrypted. Now, the one thing that I'll show you, a cool little feature, is if I went ahead, let me go share this one again, and I can say, see people in TLC, I can say specific, but I can uncheck the allow editing. What that will do is when they get it, they will be able to view it, but that is all they will be able to do. They will not be able to download it. They will not be able to print it. They will not be able to do anything with it other than view it through the web browser. So it uses a different type of encryption, but yes, it is encrypted because, again, as long as they are going to the HTTPS, it's encrypted. If you have not said that they can't edit it, they can indeed download it to their machine. At that point, if you've given them those privileges, at that point, if they sent it to somebody else, it would no longer be encrypted. So let me know if that doesn't answer your question. Okay, so this has been shared with me. These are things that have been shared with me. This is shared by me. Now I can see everything that I've shared. I can go back, clean up, take away any of the permissions if there's something that I don't want to have shared anymore. Okay, any questions on sharing? Any more questions on the security side of it, keeping it locked down? Again, this is very, very similar behavior to the way that we do things inside of SharePoint. The dirty little secret is OneDrive is actually using a hidden folder inside of SharePoint that's exclusive just to you. So it's using the same engine and structure as SharePoint. They're using the same backend system. They just show up slightly differently on your local machine. One shows up as the OneDrive, the other shows up as SharePoint. They're using the same backend system to do that, however. Same rules, encryption, sharing, all the same rules apply the same way that it would within SharePoint. Okay, the other thing that I'm going to show you online. So these are, and again, these shared by me and shared with me are only available on the web version of OneDrive. You can see here, I can't see what's been shared by me and shared with me. I have to go into the web interface to be able to do that. The other thing in here is recent. This can be really, really helpful. These are all the files that I've worked on today, yesterday, and this keeps going back last week, weeks before, 2 weeks. I don't actually know how long this goes back, and then last month. So it'll go, these are the documents that I have saved inside of my OneDrive within the last month. So that's my recent documents. You've also, my files, that takes you to your main master folder. You've also got Discover. This is an interesting one. These are all the documents from people around me inside of the Office 365 ecosystem that it thinks may be of interest to me. This is based upon Hector is a direct report to me. This is also a document we all have actually opened on a fairly regular basis. Many of you know the new user and machine setup forms that we've created. Those are in SharePoint. Those were accessed a lot of times by me, and you can see by Amanda, which is why they show up in my Discover relevant items. So these are things that it thinks might be relevant to me. This is again, if you go to Netflix and based upon your previous things that you've watched, you might enjoy these shows. Same kind of behavior. It's using an algorithm so for what it thinks might be relevant to you. So again, we go into OneDrive, my files. I've got my recent. I've got shared, which will go shared with me, shared by me. Also, I can do the discovery and the recycle bin. You'll also notice that I've got libraries over here, shared libraries. Those are just links to the SharePoint sites that I use most often. In 2 weeks, we're going to be doing a webinar on the Office 365 ecosystem. This is part of that ecosystem, is everywhere it can, it keeps pulling over more and more information for you between the systems. So between SharePoint and OneDrive and Teams and Stream and Forms and the other things we're going to be showing you in upcoming webinars. Okay, so that's shared with me, by me, and recent files. On OneDrive, you can get OneDrive on your phone. It's easy. You just go to the App Store and download OneDrive. You can access everything you need. Same way you can upload. You can do everything you need and access files. I cannot tell you the number of times I have needed just one piece of information that was on my machine somewhere, mainly in OneDrive, but I'm going to show you something else that's kind of cool in just a second, that I needed to just get a piece of data, or I needed to see something that I had typed and was able to open up my phone, quickly get into it because it was because I could access it on my phone, and it's quick and simple and easy to do. Again, you have to log in with your name and password. From a security level, understand that we at the top level, basically as your administrator, can force that if they're going to put anything Office 365 related on their phones, they have to have password protection turned on. That's something we can force at the Office 365 level. Let me see, Jack, questions?
I was going to say, yeah, we do have one more question. Looks like OneDrive is being used at TLC for a lot of shared document collaboration. How do you know when to collaborate via OneDrive or SharePoint?
Great question, Chad. The basic idea, again, go back to the basic rule. SharePoint is for shared documents. OneDrive is mainly for one things. Honestly, I I tend to keep a lot of things in my OneDrive. Um, if I've got the appropriate spot for others, for example, I'm going to go back over to my File Explorer. You're going to see here, Jack and I, because we've been doing these webinars, we were starting to share a lot of things through OneDrive, but then I had to keep sharing, and he'd do a document, he'd have to share it with me. That became not very useful. So what we did was we created a Teams site for sales and marketing, and then we started putting everything in here. Then we needed Lisa, because she's our English major, to start proofreading what we were sending out. And then now, instead of having to go and reshare everything with her, we just made her a member of that team. Again, going back to Microsoft Teams, remember the shared, the folders that are within Teams. Well, let me just do this really quick as a quick reminder. Launch my Teams, give it a second to come up. Okay, so I'm going to bring this over. Now, I am in my live team, so I am really hoping the staff doesn't do anything that will embarrass me here. In my live teams, I've got the sales and marketing. We've got our webinar series, and here's the files for that file structure. So we've got the course outlines, we've got the general, and we've got sales presentations. So I can go into the files in those, and again, those are saved. I told that to synchronize down here. So all we did was we made Lisa a member of the team, which gave her access to all of these folders. So you will cross over where you use it. I can guarantee you, if you're using OneDrive, you're going to start sharing things that way, and you're going to go, oh man, this should have been, this is getting too crazy, and you'll end up creating either a folder inside of SharePoint, or you'll create a team. Again, needing to talk about the 365 ecosystem, if I go back into Teams and I go into the webinar series and I go into my files for this, again, all of these documents, they're inside of Teams. Same thing though as SharePoint, and the way that OneDrive stores things in SharePoint just in a hidden folder, Teams does the same thing. It uses SharePoint's engine in the background, and that's where it stores the files. So you're getting the same behavior across all three, and you may end up beginning with a document in OneDrive because you're the only one using it. Once it starts being that you need to share it with multiple people, it depends. Is this a one-off issue that you're going to do, or is this a client proposal that you're going to be working on? Maybe you want to create a SharePoint site or a team site for sales, have a proposals folder, and inside of that, have the proposal for each potential new client, and then you can do co-authoring that way. So how do you know which one to use? By default, go back to the rule. SharePoint is meant for documents that are going to be shared. OneDrive is really for the one person, but you will end up sharing it with other people. Just think about how far and wide you'll be sharing it. What's our next question, Jack? And Chad, let me know if that didn't answer your question.
We had one from Amanda. You kind of dove into it a little bit, but I'll just make sure it was answered. If your organization has SharePoint, what is the purpose of sharing to OneDrive?
Oh, great question. Okay, so you don't actually share SharePoint to OneDrive, Amanda. This is where I try not to get confusing. SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams, they're all individual products with different behaviors. But the engine that they all share in common on the back end is SharePoint. It's just, that's the vehicle that Microsoft has chosen to get things. Think of it like a garage. You have a 3-car garage. You can use any of the 3 cars to get to the same destination, but they're stored in one place. That's not the best analogy, but it's the best one I could come up with on the fly. Again, go back, sharing is SharePoint is for documents that are shared amongst many. OneDrive would be for your particular, if you're the only one that's really going to be using it. Amanda, for you, it may be, you might be working on a pleading. Normally, that would probably be in the client folder. If you were going to do some brainstorming about landing potential new partners, new clients, you might do that inside of your OneDrive. So it kind of depends, is it mainly for you or is it absolutely going to be shared with other people? Amanda, if that doesn't answer your question, pop in another note, please. Okay, moving on then. So we talked about getting this on your phone. Next thing I'm going to do is show you the synchronization. Now, I showed you how to synchronize Teams files. Right here, click sync. In SharePoint, it was the same behavior. All I had to do was go into the SharePoint library, click on sync. OneDrive by default, however, automatically syncs to your machine. So the first time you log in, by default, the first time you log in and launch the application OneDrive on your desktop, you log in, you click next, 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 say just set up the basics, it will automatically by default put that application there. So you don't have to synchronize OneDrive, it does it automatically for you. Now, if you were working from multiple machines, and I do, I had a desktop at the office, I had a Macintosh at home, and I had a tablet that I travel with. Since COVID, I brought my desktop home just because I like the dual monitors. So now I'm only working from two main devices. I can synchronize OneDrive to any of my machines. Now, in particular, the reason you might want to do this is if you're getting on a plane. So that tablet that I have. Now, if you look right here, and I believe most of you will recall about the same way that on SharePoint is you can say, have it be downloaded to my machine, or just have it, or just keep a copy local on my machine, or just synchronize the folders, and I have to be on the internet to be able to get to them. Same behavior applies here. Is you'll notice right here, everything with a solid green is downloaded on my desktop machine. The ones that are not the solid green mean that they only live up in the cloud, but I could go ahead and get to any of these documents as long as I have internet connectivity. Now, if I go into my, let me see what's in here, notebooks, that's not a good one. In here, I don't have all of these folders under the TLC Tech folder in here. So financial, there's some files in there that are not automatically synced to my desktop. The reason I share this with you is when I travel, I don't need access to all of this stuff. I just don't need that. But for example, some of you know I'm working on a book. That's my GTM folder. I keep that synchronized to my tablet so that if I'm on a plane and I want to work on the book, I've got everything synchronized to that machine. And you can have different rules for different machines. On my desktop, I usually synchronize everything. On my traveling machine, on the tablet, I don't usually, I often will not synchronize but a few things. That keeps it a smaller footprint on that machine. And same way that we talked about with SharePoint, if I work on something offline, so let's say that I were on my laptop and I was on a plane, I went ahead and opened up one of the articles. I could open up one of these articles. I could make an edit to it. As soon as I got reconnected to the internet, it's going to go ahead and synchronize back up to the cloud and any other place that I have my OneDrive documents synchronized. So I want to show you how to do this. Jack, can you see my system tray? I think I shared it in such a way that they don't see that.
Your system?
Is that true? Do you see my clock? Do you see my
no.
Okay, hold on and let me share. Okay, so you should now be able to see my bottom screen. Okay, so when you launch OneDrive, this is what you're going to see. is this will always launch when the machine boots up by default. You can click on here and it tells you what it's been synchronizing. You can open the folder, you can go to view online, or you can go to more. And this is what I want to show you is settings. So once you've done the sync, now you can choose. So here's my OneDrive folder. I can choose which folders I want to synchronize. So there's two different ways we can do this. Again, I can, if I don't even want to see it, I can just take this out so the two read. So it would hide the folders on my PC. They're going to stay in OneDrive, but they wouldn't be available on this PC. So on my tablet machine, when I go to do a sync, the only thing that's checked for me typically is the GTM and HTG, because that's my peer group that a lot of you know about that we go to quarterly. Those are the two documents that I typically synchronize. So this is what's known as selective sync. So this tells you what will show up on the OneDrive on that particular machine. If you've got a machine that you use at home, you might not want to have, there might just be, the financial folder and maybe the, depending upon what you do in the company, it may be sales or it may be finance. So you can selectively sync which folders you want to have, or you can just say globally, make all of them available, bam, and it'll synchronize everything. Now, again, that's one thing on selective sync. The other thing I want to point out is right here, this on the settings is your files on demand. Files on demand is what gives you the ability to say only download the file, the folders, and the file names, but don't download them to my local machine unless I tell you. So the files on demand is what gives me the ability to have that green, the light green, meaning that it has been opened, but it's not actually been synchronized onto this machine. So if I lost internet connectivity, I would not be able to open up the items that are the not solid green. So again, right mouse click, go to settings, and this is where you can choose your folders. This is where you can choose some of your additional settings. The main thing is files on demand. Most all of you at this point should have that. That update came out almost a year ago. So if for some reason you don't have that version, what you would want to do is a quick and simple. Click View Online. That'll launch your web again. You can go into your, remember from the last time we went into account management, my account, and you would want to download a new version of Microsoft OneDrive. And you'd simply go into View Apps and Devices, and in here, you can get OneDrive. You can also just Google, let me just do that real quick for you. Let me see. OneDrive, download OneDrive. Quick and simple. So that's the easiest way to get the new version of OneDrive. Okay, let me get out of there. Let me see, go back to the settings. Now, there's one other thing that I want to show you that has really saved my tail numerous times. I'm kind of a freak and I keep a very clean desktop, as you can see. I don't save a lot of things on my desktop. A lot of people do though. And quite honestly, I cleaned this up for this presentation. But a lot of people save things to their desktops. It's kind of a temporary place. But I can guarantee you many people on this call have saved something to their desktop kind of temporarily, but that night would have loved to have been able to get to it when they were at home. But they left it on their desktop at their work machine. Here is something that is really cool that they built into a recent version. And again, this was about 9 months ago, is I can go to the backup tab and see it says important PC folders, backup files on my desktop, documents, and pictures folders. So when I say manage the backup, all I have to do is click what I want to back up. It starts off looking this way. I can say I want my pictures, I want my documents, and I want my desktop. I can say start the backup, bam. It now goes, now you can see, because what actually happened is I had a few documents that were on there, but they were actually stored only in the OneDrive. And so when I stopped syncing, it took it off of the OneDrive. This is really, really, really helpful. If you've got something that you've done at a machine, you've saved it to the desktop, you're out and about and you need to look at that file, all you have to do is open up your phone, go to OneDrive, click on desktop, and bam, you've got it. Again, let me go back to here. When I go into my files, here's my desktop, here's my documents folder, and there's the pictures folder. It will do that automatically. Now, most people may or may not be using the My Documents anymore. That was set up by default for a lot of you. We've been with you for a long time. The default when you would launch Word is you'd go to File and Save, and it would default to your My Documents, and you'd have to navigate to the N drive or the S drive or your P drive to save it there. It defaulted to the My Documents. So Microsoft built it in. Again, you click, go to Settings, it's on the Backup tab, and you just say back these up. There is one caveat here that will be a little technical for some, but the old email PST files. So if you're not purely with everything in Office 365, if you still have an old PST file and it's in your documents folder or on the desktop, Microsoft will not be able to, this option will not be, when you click it, it'll say there's files here that we can't back up. It cannot deal with PST files. It cannot deal with Microsoft OneNote files. It wants all of those, the PST files would have to be put elsewhere, like on the C drive. The OneNote files have to actually go in the folder called, where's it? Notebooks. That's where it saves the notebook file. So that's the one caveat on doing the backup. Once you've chosen it, you can just go ahead and close up and go back to your settings. I'll go okay. So that's how you can change your settings. Let me see, how are we doing on time? 10:53. So we've talked about syncing to your desktop, the documents, synchronizing your desktop back, My Documents and Pictures, that's automatic. Once you turn on this backup your folders. So any questions, Jack?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, I am getting near the end here, so please let me know if you have any questions. One other thing I will show you very quickly, you will not have, most of you will not have access to this file right here called OneDrive Admin. This is set by default, is you need to have the correct privileges. Very, very few of you have admin level access, but this is where I can do things setting the permissions of sharing. I can say the default link defaults how it defaults. This is for the external sharing. This is where I can show it that nobody is allowed to use that share with anyone who has the link. That can be turned off that way. If you were on the Sharepoint call a couple of weeks ago on the webinar, we talked about data loss prevention, which allowed us to say if it contained Hipaa, if it has PHI, if it has credit card, if it has financial, if it's social security number. There's all sorts of templates that can be applied that would say this cannot be shared outside of the network for any reason. Or we can have it say this can be shared, but they have to list the reason why they shared protected information outside of the system, outside of our internal network. So I don't want to go too deep in here. I just want you to know from an administrative level, we can set up more advanced security, lock it down tighter, and set up data loss prevention policies for you. That was what I had for the presentation. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, I will hang out if anybody wants to type any questions. In 2 weeks, we are going to do, the next webinar is going to be on the Office 365 ecosystem. And what I mean by that is I'm going to start here at the Office 365 login page, and then I'm going to talk to you about how the ecosystem works together, how it behaves, everything else that I can think of about the whole ecosystem and how it behaves. Again, feel free to ask any questions. Everybody has my private email address as well. Pop me any email questions that you may have. You'll get a follow-up email in about an hour that will have a link to register for the next webinar. We hope to see you there, and thank you for attending.